All right, in this video, we're going to talk about how to use a drop cloth, because as you can see in the background here, there are drop cloths laid all over the floor, all cattywampus, making no sense and not actually doing the job of the drop cloth. In addition to that, they are bunched up and crunched up, and that creates a tripping hazard, and that's a safety concern. First of all, you need to lay out your drop cloths in such a way so that they are not creating any tripping hazards. If that means you need to tape them down, you need to tape them down. Usually with drop cloths made out of canvas, or if we have old muslin from flats or scenery, drops, that sort of thing, and we use them for drop cloths, they're pretty stiff. So it's just a matter of technique of laying things out, preparing the surface ahead of time, and making everything smooth, and not dragging your feet while you're working as well. Organization of the workspace is important here. And organization of the workspace means keeping your space organized and tidy and effective and efficient. And what is going on around me is not effective, nor is it efficient, and it is also not safe. So right here, I've got tools buried in the drop cloth. I can't even see it. I've got rags bunched up, and these are cloth rags. They're meant to be reusable, rewashable. They're not paper towels. If you use a cloth rag, rinse it out, reuse it. It's not a disposable thing. These are probably going to have to be thrown away. There's paint gummed up on it. It's all kinds of gooey, and it's just leaving debris everywhere. Another rag. So we'll be throwing those away. There are wood scraps lying around. These are tripping hazards. This could get buried underneath a drop cloth. You could step on it, you could twist your ankle. So you gotta pick up this stuff. You gotta pick it up. Spray bottle just left lying around, should go on the paint cart. And this is one of my favorites. Bucket of water lying around, rag crumpled up, just sort of left there. That is a ruined brush. Totally ruined. One of the things is that a drop cloth that's all bunched up also doesn't do its job of protecting the floor. There's a big stain of black paint on this drop cloth. It's all bunched up. There's a lot of stains of black liquid all over the floor. Obviously someone spilled something, made a mess, and it's all bunched up. It's not doing its job. When laying out a drop cloth, it's important to have a clean surface underneath. If there's screws, if there's debris, if there's wood chips, that's going to create little imperfections. Again, you're going to not know they're under there. They could twist an ankle, they could poke a hole through the drop cloth, rendering it ineffective so that water and spillage could leak through. So clean your surface first. Prepare your surface. Now we have a clean surface and we are ready to lay our drop cloth down. We should actually get in the habit of sweeping and mopping the paint area regularly. There was a huge amount of sawdust and dust and dirt buildup. Some of it could be from sanding things in the paint area onto the drop cloths. You don't see that buildup on the drop cloths. You don't see it get underneath the drop cloths. And it's just a nasty, ugly mess. And look at the difference between before and after. And this is a nice clean surface. I'm going to wait for this water to dry before I lay out the drop cloth, but it's ready to go. Now that we've got our area clean, we're going to lay out our drop cloth. Hopefully our drop cloth is also clean. If we folded it and put it away and shook it out beforehand, it will be clean. If not, we'll be shaking it out and putting a whole bunch of dirt on the clean surface that we're trying to protect. So this, I purposely chosen a ratty old drop or piece of muslin. It was part of some piece of scenery. It's not a nice finished canvas drop cloth, so it's going to not lay as nicely. It's not as thick, and it's a little more tattered around the edges. But I wanted to demonstrate with the worst, so we could demonstrate how to get your drop cloth laid out. Again, this would be easier if we had multiple people, 2 people helping. But since I don't, I'm just going to do it the hard way and stretch out one corner, stretch out another corner, go to the other corner, go back and forth until I am happy with it. You might think that that's good enough, but it's not. I don't want these lumpy edges. I don't want this unexposed stuff. I want to protect everything. So I'm going to lay it out as flat as possible. If I'm going to have a lot of traffic over the area, if I'm going to use it for several days, I probably want to tape down my drop cloth so it can't move around. You can also get paper products in the Home Depot that do that sort of thing. What do they call it? Ram board. You get ram board and lay it down if you're going to be working in an area for a long time. Drop cloths are intended to be temporary, down for a day or 2 at most, or actually just a few hours. So lay it out as neatly as possible, straighten it out, make sure there's no tripping hazards. If the edges are curling up, then this is going to be a place where we could catch with our toes and trip and fall. So again, we could tape that down. If I've got extra here that's beyond where I want, go ahead and fold it back. Fold it back to where I want. I don't need to use the whole drop cloth. I don't need to have the whole thing spread out. But if I do use part of it, don't just bunch up the rest and create a tripping hazard. Create the area that you want. Make it nice and neat. And you can also keep track of your spills. When it's all bunched up, you can't tell that there's a big puddle of water somewhere in those areas. So just going to back that up a little bit. Now I've got my area laid out. It's neat, it's tidy, it's safe, and I'm protecting the floor from whatever I'm going to put on these sawhorses to paint or to do other scenic treatment that might get all over the floor and ruin or damage the floor. Excellent, isn't it? When we're putting away drop cloths, we want to fold them nice and neatly. They will be easier to fold with 2 people. I'm only one person on the video, so if you have a second person, it will be so much easier to fold with the second person helping. It'll be able to fold it like a big sheet or a big piece of fabric. But I'm going to fold them solo. It takes a little more time. I'll just speed up the video and cut to the chase. This is not a good fold for a drop cloth. Not good at all. This is just a bunched up, wadded rag, a mess. When you're done with your drop cloth, shake out all the debris because you don't want to fold up dirt and debris inside. There's screws in here. So this one's a fairly small drop cloth. It won't be that hard to fold by myself. Just like a sheet, just like a folded sheet, that's a good fold. That will store in the paint room nicely. If it gets to be a bigger drop cloth, you're going to be best not to fold it in the air, but to lay it on the ground and just fold it in on itself. Hidden tripping hazard. Look at that. That roll of tape will twist an ankle and injure yourself. When you have a larger drop cloth like this, it will make sense to fold it in such a way such that when you unfold it, you can partially unfold it and use it partially unfolded. So think about how you fold them in relation to how the next user, probably yourself, will use it. So it may behoove me to want to have a nice long strip the length of this large drop cloth. So I'm going to fold it in such a way so that I can unfold it and have a nice narrow strip. I don't have to open it all the way. I don't have to have this big bulky thing. If all I'm doing is painting this wall or a flat here, and I just want a 2 to 3 foot strip of protection below because I just want to collect the drips, I don't need to spread it out the whole way. Again, because I'm only one person, this takes a little bit more work. For neatness, 2 people would make it go much faster and cleaner. So now I've got a nice long strip, and that's actually a good thing because I may only want to use it and unfold it to that length. So now I can fold it the rest of the way, just like I'm folding curtains on stage. Or some variation thereof. We fold curtains on stage a very prescribed way so that we can unfold them quickly and prepare them quickly. You don't necessarily have to do that with a drop cloth. There are a number of variations that work with the drop cloth, whereas there are only 3 or 4 main variations with stage curtains. But yeah, keep in mind how you might want to use it, and maybe you can unfold it part way and not have to have this big massive trip and slip hazard everywhere, when you only need a little bit of protection. This is an old muslin drop cloth. It's actually getting a little frayed here, so I'm going to tear off an end and make it a clean edge. Throw this frayed part away. This part is just getting to be a bit of a mess, so why even keep it. But this is just old muslin. It was a drop, it was a painted piece of scenery or something before. It got recycled and turned into a drop cloth. I could do it in thirds. I've been folding them in half in the other section, but why not? Why not do it in thirds? Why not practice dividing my objects into thirds? Halves are easy. Let's do it in thirds. Straighten it out, make it nice and tidy. Fold it up nice and neatly. Oh, it's so much neater than when I opened it up. Let's say we've got a drop cloth that's folded it pretty decently, but we want to make it better. We can do that without having to open it up all the way. Let's see what we got here. This one's actually pretty good. Just going to leave that as is. Let's see if we can make this one better without starting over from scratch. No guarantee. Oh, look, it's just got lost there at the very end. Look at that. That's not so bad at all. That's much better already. Excellent. I would recommend that you pick up your drop cloths at the end of the day, unless they have paint that needs to dry or paint drips, then you probably want to leave them out for several hours till that paint dries. You don't want to fold them up with wet paint or wet liquids inside of them. They're just going to go mildewy, they're going to start to stink. If you put them away at the end of every workday, then you won't have this buildup of drop cloth disaster that was behind me when I came in this morning. Every time you put them down, they'll be fresh, they'll be clean, they'll be where you want them. You fold them up, you put them away, you have a clean surface, it's ready to go. You think you're saving time by leaving the drop cloths out for weeks, and because you're going to be painting in this area the whole time, and it's not saving time. It's actually making things more of a mess. It's making more of a cluttered environment, which psychologically makes it harder for you to be productive and effective. Your work environment is unclean, and it's a disorder, it's in disarray. So that means your emotional and mental processes also start to mimic that and become disorderly and in disarray and inefficient. So keep your workspace clean. And that's our daily lesson on how to fold drop cloths, how to lay them out, how to tend to them, how to properly care for the space that you're actually trying to protect with the drop cloths, and some general use and guidelines of the paint area in the scene shop. If you're using the paint frame behind me, there are a couple of guidelines. One is try not to ever just lean scenery up against the paint frame. When you lean scenery up against the paint frame, it suddenly means you can't move the paint frame up and down at all without moving the scenery. So if I've got this flat leaning up against it, I try to drive this paint frame down, it's going to catch on one of the next members. And that's going to tear apart the flat, it's going to damage the paint frame, who knows what's going to happen. So don't lean things up against it and store things up against the paint frame. Number one rule. And then always store it in the upper position to provide added prevention from a foot slipping and falling into the hole. We should never leave it like this at the end of the day, or at the end of the work call, or at the end of the crew call. You do want to lower the paint frame down so that you can pour your mop water down the trough, because if you have it left up in the upper position, that wooden frame is going to splatter mop water everywhere. So we'll empty our mop water first. A really filthy mop water. And that pours down to the floor drain, down in the basement. It goes to the sewer system and collects down there. We're gonna mop up this little bit of water. And there are two control stations, one on either side of the paint frame. And this is up. This is down, and this is stop, although when you let go of the button, it stops. So the stop is really only there if you let go of the button and it doesn't stop for some reason. And that's a pretty good position, but we could just have it match up 100% level, and that's even better. Now we have a whole safe zone and added protection to keep wayward feet from slipping into the open trench. This is the painting area, and we have this floor down to protect the floor from the accumulation of buildup of paint and goo and residue. So you don't technically have to put drop cloths down in this area. You can if you want, and it's appreciative to keep this area clean and make it last longer. I made this nice clean painted surface this summer when I was preparing the space to come back to operation, mostly as a way to protect this wood surface, this MDF surface, from moisture and debris and degradation over time and use and abuse. It's not a precious surface. It doesn't have to remain perfectly black with the yellow caution area, although that caution area is there to remind you that there's an open trench. When that paint frame is down, you could slip in and fall in and hurt yourself. It is a warning sign, but it can still be a warning sign if it's got a few drips and messes of paint. You don't have to put drop cloths down, and in fact, because the drop cloths were such a mess, it kind of negated the purpose of them, because there are now drips and drabs and spatters and stuff everywhere in between where the drop cloths didn't cover up. So there was really no point in putting drop cloths down in the first place if you're just going to put them down so haphazardly.